All right, so with spring and summer coming up, we've got two new fragrances from Fragrance World that I think really would do well in that weather. And so one of them is going to be Invicto Legend, and this is going to be the clone of Invictus Legend from Paco Rabanne. And then we also have F by Fragrance World, and this is F, the Eau De Parfum. And this is going to be their take on YSL Y EDT. All right. So this particular fragrance F, or at least the YSL Y sort of EDT, fragrance profile, I am a little familiar with that. Like I said before in the previous video, I did have I do have a clone from Central Obsessions that is also cloning YSL Y EDT. I would say that the Central Obsessions version is a little bit sweeter than what this is, and also what the original is from YSL. It also performs, I would say, better than both of the fragrances, in terms of projection and longevity. But again, it's not as accurate, I would say, as what the F by Fragrance World is. So, I mean, for the most part, I'm going to say that this is like at least 95% pretty much YSL Y EDT. Really, the only sort of difference that I sort of pick up on is going to be like in the very immediate opening when you first spray the two fragrances on. That aldehydes note that you get from YSL Y EDT, it's definitely going to smell way more synthetic in the Fragrance World version. And I mean, I would say so much so that it does make the fragrance seem very kind of off-putting, in my opinion, when you first spray the two fragrances on. Now, I would say that only really lasts for, I don't know, probably like the first 90 seconds or so, if that. So it's not anything that lasts a long time, but it is definitely noticeable when you smell the two side by side. And yeah, I mean, the way it comes off in the Fragrance World fragrance, it basically, it smells like paint thinner. Yeah, I would say like paint thinner, or even like nail polish removal or remover. I would say it smells like that for like the first 90 seconds. And it kind of smells like that mixed with like citruses pretty much in the Fragrance World F. Definitely smells a lot better in the original from YSL. So you're not really getting like that, kind of nail polish remover or, sort of paint thinner type of smell. You're getting, that sort of aldehyde smell along with the bergamot and the lemon, the mint. So it definitely, it smells a lot better in the opening when it comes to the original. Now, I would say at about this point now, pretty much the Fragrance World, pretty much once it starts to kind of settle down, is when it basically smells almost identical, I would say, to the original YSL pretty much. So yeah, not really much different after, like I said, about that maybe 60 to 90 second mark pretty much. Now the other thing that I would say that there is a slight difference is, I would say the longevity on the F from Fragrance World seems to be a little bit better than what I'm getting from this YSL Y sample. Now, I know that YSL did recently sort of reformulate YSL Y. I believe it was like back in 2022. And they made it, to where it actually is a longer lasting sort of formulation. Because I know I had seen the advertisements where, they were basically saying that it would last at least 8 hours. So I don't know if I'm assuming that this is going to be this sample that I have here is probably like an original formulation of the fragrance. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think that this sample card has any sort of batch code on it. I'll have to maybe look and see. I don't necessarily see one on here, but yeah, pretty much. I mean, I would say with the YSL, that one kind of lasts like around, I would say 5.5 to 6 hours or so. Whereas with the F, you're looking at about, I would say 6.5 to about 7.5 hours, pretty much. And I mean, as we all know, pretty much with just about all fragrance world fragrances, you know, the performance that you get when you initially, you know, start spraying the fragrance and, you know, when you initially get it is not necessarily going to be the performance that you get, you know, maybe let's say a month or 2 or 3 months later, pretty much. So this may be, you know, an 8+ hour performer after a couple of months of sort of, you know, maturating. I'm not sure, but as of right now, I would say it is slightly above average when it comes to the performance. The sillage is pretty much, I would say the sillage and the projection are about the same pretty much as what you get with the YSL. Like I said, just the longevity seems to be a little bit better. All right. Now, if you're not familiar with YSL Y EDT, pretty much what you have here is in the top, you have aldehydes, you have bergamot, ginger, mint, and lemon. And then in the mid, you have apple, violet leaf, pineapple, sage, and geranium. And in the base, you have ambergris, musk, cedar, balsam fir, vetiver, and incense. So, I mean, pretty much, I would say the best way to kind of describe this fragrance is it does smell similar to YSL Y EDP. It does, but this is a much, I would say, lighter, fruitier, you know, much less dense and more aromatic sort of take on, you know, that particular scent, the YSL Y EDP. So this one is, I would say, a lot more suited kind of for like daytime in the summer, in the spring, you know, possibly even like early fall when it's warm. But this is, I would say, going to be just strictly kind of like a daytime fragrance. I would almost even say like this would kind of, in my opinion, to me, be like a more modernized, more updated version of, you know, like Versace Pour Homme, pretty much. So like if I had the choice to wear this or Versace Pour Homme, I would hands down wear this every time over Versace Pour Homme. And I still have my bottle of Versace Pour Homme, but I just kind of feel like that fragrance now, even though it still smells amazing, it just doesn't necessarily do it for me anymore. I don't really reach for it like that. So I think that this is definitely going to be a more sort of updated take on that type of, you know, sort of scent profile where you just want to smell really fresh, clean. You know, this is a really easy to wear, really inoffensive type of scent. It does give you pretty decent, you know, projection. The Central Obsessions version, again, I would say definitely does a little bit better on the projection and the longevity. But either way, man, this one is really good. So I would say, you know, definitely if you're someone who is maybe like looking to get YSL Y, the EDT version, and you just, you know, hadn't pulled the trigger yet, maybe take a look at this one. I was definitely one of those people as well. I had been looking to get especially that new formulation of YSL EDT, YSL Y EDT. And I mean, now that I have this fragrance, I would say pretty much there's really no need for me to go out and get that fragrance. Now, keep in mind, like I mentioned in previous videos, this fragrance as well as the Invicto Legend were both sent to me for free, you know, from Salim at Banadir. But pretty much, I mean, these opinions that I have and my assessment of these two fragrances are totally my own. So definitely that doesn't sway my decision on, you know, whether or not I would recommend these fragrances or not. But I do, again, definitely recommend this fragrance for sure. especially if you're someone who's, familiar with that, YSL EDT scent profile. So overall, man, if I'm going to give this one a rating, just from like 1 to 10, this is definitely going to be like a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, it's definitely outside of like that sort of initial blast for about the first 90 seconds. It's almost identical to the original. So definitely pick this one up. Again, this is F by Fragrance World. All right, and so we have here Invicto Legend. So again, this is going to be the Invictus Legend from Paco Rabanne clone. And this is, I would say this is actually closer, to the original than what this one is. And I mean, I pretty much said that this one is almost identical. This one, I really struggled to pick up any real sort of differences between this and the original from Paco Rabanne. I would say that in the opening of the two fragrances, the Invictus Legend seemed to be just, I would say, like maybe like 1%, maybe a little bit more spicier than what this one was. But I mean, just in terms of like the quality of the smell, pretty much they are, I would say, nearly identical. So this is also a very, very good clone. And again, keep in mind with this fragrance as well, this is also another fragrance that Salim sent to me for free. But again, my assessment of this fragrance is 100% my own. All right. I'm just going to spray both of these on strips here just to kind of refresh the opening. So yeah, I mean, I would say pretty much if you're going to get any sort of difference, between the two fragrances, for the most part, it's just going to be in the opening. And I would say in this opening, yeah, I feel like I'm getting a little bit more spice. The C notes seem to be, I would say, slightly more sort of intensified. And that bay leaf seems to be a little bit more prominent. Now, if you're not familiar with the notes in Invictus Legend, pretty much in the top notes, you have C notes, you have sea salt, grapefruit, bay leaf, geranium, spices, and you have red amber and gaiac wood. Once the two dry down, I would say they start to become much closer to each other. And not to say that they're like super far apart, in the immediate opening, but probably for like the first 2 minutes or so, that's really going to be when you'll notice like the most sort of difference between the two. I would say the bay leaf is not really that prominent in the Invicto Legend, whereas in the original Invictus Legend, it is definitely a little bit more prominent. But at this point, I mean, I would say they're probably like 97% close or so. Between like 95 and 97%. I mean, they're almost pretty much identical. The Invicto Legend, I would say, just overall is maybe a couple of percent weaker than what the Invictus is. But I mean, again, not by much. And I mean, for the most part, when it comes to both of these fragrances, the performance is about the same for the most part. I really stopped, being able to really smell, each fragrance, I would say probably after about 5 to 6 hours or so. Now, I don't know necessarily if that is, just the actual longevity of both of these fragrances, or if it's just me kind of going nose blind to the fragrances. Because one thing that I definitely noticed for sure is I can spray this and I'll go back into the room, and like in some cases before I even get into the room, that's the first thing that I smell is, you know, this fragrance pretty much. Both this or, you know, if I spray the original Invictus, those are the first things that I smell pretty much. So definitely the projection on both of these are going to be beast mode. Like I mentioned before, the Invicto Legend, when I wore it, pretty much I got like beast mode projection probably for like the first, I would say 2.5 hours or so, possibly even 3. And then basically after like that maybe 5.5 hour mark or so, you know, kind of going towards 6, I would say that at that point I couldn't really smell anything at all. Like even if I just like kind of went under my shirt like this and kind of smelled it, or, you know, smelled certain areas on my body where I'd actually sprayed it, I couldn't really smell anything from the fragrance. And that's both, again, with the original and the clone. So like I said, I'm not sure if it's a, you know, kind of nose blind thing that's going on. I haven't had the chance to really kind of wear it around anyone else and kind of ask them like, hey, can you still smell it or not? But I would say at least for the time that you can smell this fragrance, this is an amazing fragrance. I'm really kind of sad that I hadn't really known about this fragrance before, or, you know, never really, you know, experienced the scent profile from the original. Because this is, I would say, out of all the fragrances that I got, you know, from that Banner fragrance haul, this is definitely, I would say, my favorite one. It definitely has like the most sort of versatility in my opinion. So this is strong enough in my opinion that, you know, it can cut through cold weather, but it's also fresh enough that you can also sort of wear this, you know, in warmer weather too. Now, obviously, I would say in warmer weather, you would want to kind of cut down on your sprays, because it probably would become a little bit cloying, you know, especially like in the actual summertime. But I still think that this is one that you could wear in the summertime. I would just probably more so, you know, reach for this at night in summertime once the sun is kind of going down. But, you know, pretty much spring, summer, fall, winter, doesn't really matter. I would say you could wear this any time of the year. I would say in the sort of cooler months, it wouldn't necessarily matter when you wear it. So whether it's day or night, I really don't think it would really matter. But like I said, definitely in the summertime, I would probably only reach for this one at night. All right. In terms of, you know, like the occasions, I'm going to say that this is going to be kind of like more of sort of like a casual fragrance. It is signature scent worthy, I would say, for sure. So definitely if you wanted to kind of wear this fragrance every day, I would definitely see how that would be possible. But I would also say that, you know, with how loudly you know, this one projects and the type of sillage that this one leaves behind, this one, in my opinion, would also be a really good clubbing fragrance as well, because it definitely has that type of performance, you know, where it's loud enough to kind of cut through everybody else's fragrances that are in the club and everything else that's kind of going on, and allow, you know, everyone around you pretty much to smell you. So definitely I would say this is, you know, the scent profile for that particular occasion. All right. Now, again, performance wise, longevity, I'm getting like around 6 hours or so. I'll have to kind of do more testing to see, you know, if it is in fact, you know, lasting longer. And if it's not, you know, obviously with this being a fragrance world fragrance, the performance on this may get better in the next month or two. But at least so far, I can only really smell this for probably like a good 5.5 to 6 hours pretty much. All right. So if I'm gonna rate this one on a scale from 1 to 10, in terms of, you know, how good of a clone this is to the original, I'm definitely gonna have to say that this is, I would say, at least a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, you don't get too many differences between the two. I would say, at least right now, the Invictus, it does seem to be a little bit stronger than what the Invicto Legend is. At least on the paper anyway. On skin, I really don't get that difference, but on the paper, it does seem to be a little bit stronger in terms of sort of, you know, how it's projecting. But I mean, in terms of the smell is basically, it's basically the same pretty much. So yeah, I'm gonna say at least about, you know, 95% for the most part. So again, really solid clone from Fragrance World. Both of these I'm extremely happy with and definitely intend to wear a lot, you know, once it starts to warm up here. Definitely, obviously, I can wear this one probably right now, you know, as well. But I do want to see kind of how this performs, you know, once it starts to warm up. All right. So definitely let me know in the comments, have you all smelled Invicto Legend? Have you smelled Eau De Parfum by Fragrance World? And what do you think about both of these fragrances? How close do you think that these come to the originals? Do you agree with my assessment of how close they come? So again, let me know in the comments. Also, if you are brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. Also, anyone watching, leave a like on the video. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see y'all in the next video.